Welcome to the Lindamood-Bell Radio Podcast. Lindamood-Bell Radio explores topics in learning and literacy. I'm Dave Hungerford here for Lindamood-Bell. Is math difficult for your child? It can seem like some people just get it, while others don't. Here's something to think about. People who are good at math can visualize math concepts. The language of numbers turns into imagery, and they can see mathematical relationships. At our learning centers, we teach students how to think with numbers using our unique approach. We believe individuals of all ages can learn to do and enjoy math. Get in touch to learn more about our math instruction. Call us at 800-233-1818 or visit lindamoodbell.com. For this episode, I spoke with Dinah Humphries, who I met at our learning center in Melbourne, Australia. Her daughter Tallulah was struggling with learning to read and was labeled dyslexic. Let's listen to her story.
So my name is Dinah Humphries and my daughter Tallulah is 7 years old and we're in Melbourne in Australia. Tallulah is a fantastic kid. She has always been so bright and funny and interested in people and conversation. Her verbal capacity has always been huge. She talked from about 6 months old. She has always been a conversationalist. She has always loved interaction with other people, so she's a great kid to bring up. She can be very challenging, of course, very spirited, we say, apparently. So she is a very spirited child, but she's a joy to be around and she's always laughing, always smiling, confident interacting with adults, confident interacting with peers. So, yeah, she's a great kid.
Siblings?
No, she's an only child.
What does she like to do for fun?
Tallulah is a very stage-orientated child, which you might find hard to believe. No, she's very confident. She loves singing, she loves dancing, she loves acting, any pretend play. We play a lot of Harry Potter at home. We play a lot of Star Wars, lots of imaginary games. There's lots of unicorns, fairies, acting out different scenarios, having adventures. Everything usually comes with a theme. So there's lots of themes happening in our play, lots of pretend play, a costume box that's, this big, hardly fits in the cupboard anymore. So yeah, she's a joy to play with. It's a good fun environment, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about her school history, her academics so far.
Yeah, so I guess because she was very verbal from when she was very young, she was very competent verbally. So we just assumed that she would be, I think it was me actually, I probably assumed she'd be fantastic at school. She's very interested in the world and interested in learning, interested in knowledge, interested in making things, creating things, thinking of new ideas. So I'm in early childhood myself, and I never had any concerns about her growing up. The only thing that I look back now and think it was a sign, a very early sign perhaps, is that she took a very long time to choose her hand. So she would she'd draw with a pencil in her right hand and then she'd just swap into the other hand and then she'd swap back again, and then she would often pick up two pencils at once and draw simultaneously with two pencils. And of course, being the mother that I am, I just thought she was gifted. Turns out that is apparently an early sign of dyslexia. So it can be an early sign of dyslexia. So we didn't think about it at the time. I remember saying to a colleague of mine in late kindergarten, early prep, saying, she still hasn't decided on her hand. And my colleague who was in special education at the time said, why don't you take her to an OT, an occupational therapist, and have her handedness assessed? So that's what we did. And the OT was fantastic, and she worked really in-depthly with Tallulah to work out which hand she favoured, and it turned out that she did favour the right hand. So we just followed up on that and had more OT, and it turns out she had a bit of motor planning and motor processing, a few motor processing and planning issues going on as well. But we didn't really think that much more of it. And I guess the other thing that I look back on now and I think was interesting about kindergarten is I never had any drawings. So I was the mum that came to pick up the child from kindergarten. Everyone else had, a file with all these paintings and drawings and artwork that the children had done at kindergarten. I had the 3D sculptures. So I had the tissue box with the cereal box on top, and then the sticky tape and the sticky tape and the sticky tape and the pokey out toilet rolls and all sorts of things. And I'd be, everyone else would be given this nice little folder of take home art, and I'd be given this construction that I had to sort of carry out the gate and then do something with at home. So when I look back on that, I remember the first time we found out that she perhaps had dyslexia. I Googled Dyslexia Australia, and because Google tells you everything that you need to know. And I saw the list of strengths. The first thing I saw was a list of traits or strengths of children with dyslexia or people with dyslexia, and one of them was 3D art and 3D creativity. And I just thought, it just all fell into place.
So what has been your experience in Tallulah getting that label of dyslexia here in Australia?
With dyslexia, for our child, I have been very focused on her particular type of dyslexia, but in my reading and research that I've done since we found out about the diagnosis or the assessment of dyslexia, I have been quite broad in looking at what options there are for children with dyslexia, and meeting other people and saying, I have a child with dyslexia, and they say, I have a cousin with dyslexia, or, a friend of mine has a child with dyslexia. So I guess the more you talk about it, the more you find out about it. I think in Australia, it's recognised by some schools and some teachers. And but on the other hand, a lot of people don't know what to do with it and how to address it, and especially in the classroom environment. And that's what we found. One of our biggest challenges was we didn't find that the school we were at the time was able to understand and cope with the intensity and the level of support that she needed in the classroom.
So did she get a formal diagnosis of dyslexia?
Yeah. So after the grade 1 teacher at the time called me and said, because I said to her, I'm having some troubles taking Tallulah to school, and she's always loved school. She's always been happy to go. She's always social. She wants to be involved, but then she just started not wanting to go to school. And this was grade 1. Yeah. So she was 6. And I said to the teacher, I'm really having trouble. She was crying in the morning at school, and it was very hard for me. I work part-time, and to run off to work, it was really difficult. So I just said to the teacher, you're going to have to work out what's going on. You have to help me work out what's going on. And she rang me a few days later, and she said, I've done some tests on Tallulah. I think she might have dyslexia. And for me, instead of being a shock, it was, wow, everything just felt right. I was like, yes, that's the problem. That's the issue. That's why my bright, competent, social, confident, amazingly gifted in terms of her vocabulary child can't read. I wrote to the state education minister as well, and I just said, look, this is after I'd done the course, and I said, this is what we've done, and this is how much money my family has spent, and including the OT and all the interventions that we'd had and all the support that we'd had. And he wrote back to me and he said, we really appreciate all the effort that you've put into your child, and understand that it is a cost. And there is a cost involved, and this is what we're doing in the state of Victoria to support, children with dyslexia and their families. And for me, it was too little, too late. And also I felt very privileged that I was able to afford to help my daughter. And I wonder how other people or other families support their children in the private system, or in getting help privately, getting intervention privately.
So how did you hear about Lindamood-Bell?
Our educational psychologist recommended Lindamood-Bell. And when I first heard about it, I have to say I was very sceptical. Obviously, having a background in education, made me very interested in wanting to make sure that we were making the right decision for our family and for our child. And when I heard about the intensity of the contact, I was very reluctant. I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. I'm working, my husband's working. We just can't manage that. It's too much of an interruption on our family life. And it would be too much on her, was what I was primarily concerned about. But as I looked into it more and read the research articles and spent time on the internet, and I actually got to speak to a family that was going through Lindamood-Bell themselves, and they absolutely raved about it. And that's what I wanted. I wanted a first-hand experience of it. So it wasn't someone just selling me something that I'd never heard of before. I wanted to know that it worked for real people like myself and my family. So once I heard her speak, I just thought, yeah, this is really worth investigating and moving a bit further down the line with.
So you looked at some research articles, looked at things online, and yet word of mouth was something that affected you. Was this somebody that you knew?
I didn't want to speak to somebody who I already knew. I wanted to speak to somebody who had no connection to me and someone that I was sure was having an experience similar to myself. And she talked about her family. She talked about the fact that she had 4 children and 2 of them had diagnosis and one of them was going through the Lindamood-Bell program, and just how amazing it was for her. And that was a real... it was something that really convinced me that we could do it, because I thought if she can do it with 4 children, we can do it with our 1 child. And I guess it was also thinking, you know, what wouldn't you do if you had the resources, what wouldn't you do to help your child?
So what was the final tipping point in your decision-making process?
Coming in, so talking to the person on the phone, coming in here and seeing the facility and meeting the people involved, reading the research articles, and also talking to our educational psychologist as well. She had a few options that we could consider in terms of intervention. And when I looked at the long-term outcomes, or I guess it was a consideration around investment, short, intensive investment versus long-term, slow progress. And what we knew about Tallulah is once she could do something, she would be off and running. And so I thought, let's invest this time and money in an intensive way and take a gamble and see if it works. And if it does work, it'll bridge the gap from where we are now to where we want to be in terms of her reading, and hopefully the rest will just take care of itself. And that's what happened.
So tell me about Tallulah's day-to-day experience here in the Learning Center. Was it 4 hours a day, 5 days a week?
Yeah, it's hard to remember now. I think it was halfway through grade 1, so she's in grade 2 now, so it was only last year. It feels like years ago. I remember very distinctly coming in here for the first time with her. I was so nervous. I was thinking, I don't know what this is going to be like. This is costing me a fortune in terms of time and effort. I had a schedule written up. I had, who was picking her up and dropping her off each day. My parents were involved. I had everything down and planned. And she just ran up the stairs, skipped in, so happy to be here, looked at me with a big smile on her face and said, "See ya, I'll see you tonight." And I just thought, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be really good. So she was totally happy to come on her first day, and she had a great time. She had an instant rapport with the teachers. She had, of course, her very favourite teacher, and she had 2 favourites actually, and one boy, 1 girl. But everybody was fantastic. She just loved working with. She loved the children. She loved working with the teachers. She loved everything about coming. The prizes were particularly big in our house.
She was incentivized, as they say.
She was, yeah. She's easily incentivized. What else can I tell you?
I know you probably had a weekly consultation meeting. Seeing Stars was the program Tallulah went through. How would you describe that to somebody?
Oh, that's a good question. So Seeing Stars is about, I guess it's about showing children how to visualize in their head words and what they look like and then what they sound like. So words and sounds and combinations of sounds. That's my understanding of Seeing Stars. I distinctly remember coming in for my first consultation on the Friday. So she started on the Monday and everything was fine. And every time we picked her up, she was great. She was fine. She was a little bit tired, but nothing overwhelming. So that tension was eased from our point of view. And we were confident that she was enjoying herself, and we waited to see what would happen in that first Friday consultation. So I went in and I watched her work with the teacher for the first time. And it's still emotional now because I remember I distinctly remember sitting there thinking, my daughter couldn't read on Monday and now she can read. It was just, sorry. I was so proud of her. And I was so pleased that we had made the sacrifice that we had made, and so relieved that it turned out to be the right choice.
5 days.
5 days, yep.
And so we get through week 1.
We got through week 1.
Now, she was there for 4 weeks?
No, she was here for 6 weeks.
So you did this during the school year, and she missed a little bit of her school day. How did that negotiation work out with your school?
The teacher was fantastic. The teacher was really supportive of the choice that we'd made, and the only concern that she had was the time factor and the fact that she would be learning in the morning at school and then she would be learning in the afternoon till quite late, and she just had a concern about her stamina. But what we decided to do was flip the mornings and afternoons just to give her a different experience. So in some mornings we would spend at her school, some afternoons here, and then the next week we would flip. So we'd spend the morning here and the afternoon at school. So
everyone survived the first week. Did you get a chance over the course of her instruction to sit in and watch her work?
After the first assessment that I saw, or the first consultation that I had with seeing the results of the first week with the tutor, and then seeing her actually work with the tutor in the classroom, I told everybody that I knew, every single person I knew. And of course, being from a big family, everyone wanted to come in and see it in action. So she had 2 grandparents that wanted to come in. Her school teacher wanted to come in. My husband, of course, was desperate to come in. I wanted to come in every day just to see it. So she had lots of visitors, and the company, Lindamood-Bell, were really, really supportive about us wanting to be involved, and my family really wanting to share this important educational step that she had been able to take. And I think that really helped to allow her to feel really, really proud of what she was doing here, and the journey that she had been on and the progression that she had made, having the family sit beside her and just be so amazed and so proud and so happy for her that she was reading.
So they brought in grandstands for everybody?
Pretty much, yeah. No, we had a one at a time thing, but they were really, really flexible in allowing us to have the family there to support her and to just share in the joy that she was experiencing of being able to show off this new skill that I have.
So she took a final assessment?
She took a final assessment, and the results were just incredible, just more than what I had hoped for. She was reading at age level, which was just something that we just never thought was possible given the experience that we'd had the year before and for the half a year of school that we had before we started Lindamood-Bell.
And she's right about the age that we talk about, at least in the States, and it's kind of a cliche that, shifting from just learning to read to being responsible for the content of whatever it is you are reading or hearing.
that was really our aim, was to make sure that she had the basics down before she got to a point where her understanding was compromised, because her understanding and comprehension was so good in relation to her ability to actually read. We wanted to make sure that was maintained and that wasn't compromised in her later learning.
So I'm thinking and hoping that you are confident for her future.
We feel really excited about her future. I know that dyslexia is not cured by the course that we did, but it has been, that gap that I was talking about earlier has really been jumped. And when we did the assessment, we showed our individual needs teacher at the school that Tallulah is at, and she said, looking at Tallulah now, in terms of her comprehension and her reading ability, I wouldn't even see a dyslexic profile. So yeah, it's just been, she said to me, whatever you did last year, whatever intervention you did last year has just really stood her in great stead to be at the point that she is now, and we can just move forward. I guess the only other thing I wanted to say was, the staff here were just fantastic and so supportive of me and Tallulah, and they always greeted us both by name, and they were always so excited to see her and me, and so willing to work with her strengths. So they found out so quickly that she was interested in Harry Potter, that she was a massive Star Wars fan, that she loved dressing up, and they really catered to those particular strengths that she had and allowed her to share that enthusiasm that she has for that side of learning and that side of imagination. And those skills that she does have, they allowed her to share those in here. And I think that meant that she was more comfortable learning and doing tasks for them, and much more easy to coerce into doing things that she perhaps found difficult, because they really made that side of her learning so exciting for her. Doing Lindamood-Bell has changed our life. It's changed our family's life.
Wow. That's great to hear. Thank you so much for sitting down to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
And thank you for listening to Lindamood-Bell Radio. You can see a video of Tallulah and Dinah on our YouTube channel, Lindamood-Bell, and you can find more episodes and subscribe to Lindamood-Bell Radio wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Lindamood-Bell on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We are Lindamood-Bell.